It's a pop film, but it's with like middle-aged people who are just living day by day. What the fuck, man? That's so great.
Hey,
motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
all right. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to One Fucking Hour. My name is Evan Husney. Of course, joined to my left by Tom Fitzgerald. Tom.
Hello, folks.
To my right, Mr. Marcus Herring. Marcus?
What is up, you guys? It's good to be here, huh?
Oh, my God. Yeah, fresh, hot off the heels of our Zardoz episode last week.
That was a doozy.
That was an interesting experiment, but, you know, a very interesting, unexpected, sort of fascinating, complex look at a weird flop, I'd say. But great feedback that we got from everybody, so really appreciate that a lot for everyone to check that out.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
An interesting exercise. All right, but now this fucking hour is on Quentin Tarantino's 1997 film Jackie Brown. So shall we start the clock, gentlemen?
Please.
All right. I'm going to start this one off, if you don't mind. Gentlemen, if I can have the floor for just 90 seconds. We all love this movie a lot. You know, I think all of us would agree that, you know, we feel it's Quentin Tarantino's best film, maybe by a mile, right? That's kind of the log line of the show. And for me, I had this revelation. Like last night, you know, to quote the professional wrestler Macho Man Randy Savage, last night I was staring at a candle for 2 hours, and that candle gave me new light, you know, and I was realizing that I think that I was like, is Jackie Brown my favorite film of the 1990s?
Whoa.
I know, which totally came as a surprise to myself. I'm like, is a Quentin Tarantino film my favorite movie of the 90s? Because I would never consider myself a fan of Quentin Tarantino's films whatsoever. But I was really thinking about it. And I was like, well, look, there's Silence of the Lambs. You know, I love that movie. That's 1990. That's on the edge. Goodfellas, 1990. It's on the edge. Yeah. You know, Kiarostami, Close Up. That's 1990 on the edge, you know. And I'm just thinking like, what's a real fucking 90s movie that I love? And I think this is the number one for me. Like truthfully. Wow. And I think the reason why I love this movie so much is for almost a meta reason, because I think it's one of my favorite film casts of all time. I mean, one of, and I absolutely adore Pam Grier and Robert Forster in this movie so much. It's almost like the experience of watching this movie. You not only see it's just a brilliant choice of taking them out of kind of the exploitation world that they're from and putting them into this movie and showing them in a way that really takes them seriously, you know? And I just absolutely love that. I love how it's a low stakes crime plot. You know, this like kind of, it's like all really about two paper bags, you know, changing hands, really. That's all really the crime element of it is. So it's a very low to the ground story with these real, which allows you to have these like low to the ground human portraits and opportunities to just hang with the characters, where like it's not like a movie like Heat or something, you know, where the crime element is just all over the place. It's M16s blazing in fucking downtown, you know? So anyway, end of the story. I love this movie for how elegant it is and how timeless it is, and that's not something you can say about any other Quentin Tarantino film.
Yeah, elegance is a good word, I would say. And I think that's partly informed by the restraint involved, and not just relative to Quentin's other films, you know, but overall, you know, it has a lot of restraint in it could go, especially with him, you know, a lot more Looney Tunes, and it never does. It doesn't even have that much of a big ending, you know? And look, well, you and I know that this film is very Friends of Eddie Coyle, you know?
Yes.
It's that side of Quentin's film love, you know what I mean? And I mean, Jackie Brown is actually a character name in Eddie Coyle, right?
Right, totally. And I was just going to say,
that's where I got it.
seeing these actors, mainly like I was saying, Pam Grier, Robert Forster, and like you root for them so hard in this movie, especially at the end of the movie when there's that amazing emotional moment and Pam is driving off by herself. It's like you're really, it's a real meta experience because you're really rooting for them as characters. Your heart breaks for them as characters because it's so well done. But at the same time, you're also just like cheering for them as actors because they're in their mid 40s and they get this opportunity. And
that's
you're
a
there
great
for
point.
them. And it's like, and that to me is like, that means a lot as a viewer because, you know, there's nothing else quite like that, especially in the 90s. But go on.
That's a great point. There's a dual impact. Just my last little thought on that is, speaking of how they were just plucked from, the dregs of a lot of like direct-to-video kind of stuff, Forrester and Greer, when he plucked them from that, I was thinking it might be funny later to look at their IMDb's because it goes from like, oh boy, like Maniac Cop 4, or something, or like Elves 5. I'm just making that up, but like, that kind of thing. We've seen those kind of IMDb's, but then suddenly it's like, boom, and then Oscar nomination,
Yeah.
And Pam is doing a little bit better. As she pointed out to Quentin, she had been in Escape from LA. Okay, somebody's got to be in Escape from LA. That's cool.
Yeah.
and Mars Attacks was coming up so she was around, but she was not the lead, of course,
Right.
But Forster was way down. Like Alligator was a long time ago, and that was kind of when he started really stumbling, and this is like 15 years later.
Yeah, it does seem like that trick of like plucking someone out of, resurrecting someone's career, like Travolta in Pulp Fiction and Pam Grier in this, and then Sophia did it for Bill Murray later on. It seems like that's kind of doesn't happen as much anymore because of all this prestige TV. There's roles for people these days, and I think a lot of directors, their mind goes there, like, oh, I'd like to work with this actor. You don't really see the same kind of dip in people's career, people of that stature, like, that were huge stars in one era and then like kind of faded out and then came back.
However, I will say that I do think that there's a stunt casting element to John Travolta, in my opinion, with Pulp Fiction, a little bit. It's like, you wouldn't think it,
like he himself is a pop culture reference,
right?
Because he's like broad mainstream famous, and Pam and especially Forrester were deep cuts.
Yeah,
it wasn't like that's like Barbarino's in the movie,
Right, and it's kind of like where I truly believe, that Quentin felt that they were like the people he envisioned and thought about for those roles, and yet they and they play them so well, and I know I'm belaboring the same point, but it's so great to see these actors who, I mean, they were exploitation stars, and there's, they have fan bases in those films, but this is really the chance where you're kind of classifying them with the rest of everybody else, that they're not just character actors, they're really great actors, and they're being taken seriously for the first time, and so there's power in that.
Look, he has a great eye in all kinds of ways, and one of them is casting. Also, actually, this is not the film that broke Sam Jackson. That was one before with Pulp Fiction, but he did pluck Jackson from obscurity. He was Styx in Goodfellas for like, a second and gets killed. So he really didn't have much of a career either. And he became a major presence to this day. You know what I mean? Even more than Travolta, So like, he just has a great eye. I mean, and he does not, he's not picky. I don't know. We've all seen these kind of interviews with him from that time, and he talks about the casting because everybody's asking about the casting, and he just, tells us like how it really works in Hollywood. So often it's just there's literally like a book. You know what I mean? And it's like over 50 character actor, and it's just the same people. Wilford Brimley or something. And so they just keep getting. And I see that still happening. Sure. There's you see a character actor who you see for the first time. And then it's like, oh God, now like we're gonna see Molly Shannon forever. Like Molly Shannon was nothing, and then not in the book, okay? And then she was in the book and is in the book, and she's a big star. That just is one example I thought of this afternoon. And it's just casting. What I'm trying to say is still lazy, and driven by just generic lists. And it's a lost art to have inspired casting.
Yeah.
And that's one of the great things that he brought into the 90s, which was, it was a lost art of film, which was casting. And this is a perfect example of that. He got the right people. I think it's his best casting because he gets a little stunty. That's true. And he does start relying on people in the past few years. That's true. And he does go for movie stars more now. You know, like the last one had like two of the biggest stars of all time, or of our time. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, all right, DiCaprio, it's cool, you know, but like he really surprised us with Jackie Brown more than any other film that I can think of.
Oh my
in the
God.
casting, in the casting.
Totally. And let's sort of touch on this real quick as a nice segue. Because this is something that comes up, even came up last week, is sort of a thing we're really harping on, is the kind of Magnolia effect of you know, having a follow up to a massively successful film. And Pulp Fiction
last week was, just to reiterate, just to define Magnolia, and you could do that with Magnolia. So Boogie Nights, huge. You get a blank check as a director. Do the movie you want. Magnolia. Oh my God. And then Deliverance. You killed it. Oh my God. What do you really want to do? It's like, I want to do Zardoz. But I know where you're going with this. What did he do after Pulp Fiction, which was his Deliverance and Boogie Nights?
Yeah, right. So Pulp Fiction, this massive, you know, one of the most massively culturally zeitgeisty relevant films of the 90s, changed everything. And then, you know, he decides to follow it up with this, just, you know, he doesn't go bigger. He doesn't try to top it.
He goes smaller.
He goes smaller, and he goes more intimate, and he also demonstrates an extreme level of restraint, as you said. And and that's like
he did an anti-Magnolia, which is maybe unprecedented.
I know. So that's truly commendable. And I wish he would have stuck on that train a little bit, because then he overcompensated with the next couple of films there.
The 8-hour whatever Kill Bill, that's his Magnolia.
Yeah.
So, but he didn't directly follow it up. He didn't directly follow it up.
He did some weird things right afterwards, right? Like Destiny Turns on the Radio, or he was like the lead actor.
No, that was like before, or right at the exact same time, like 93 or something. You know.
But he also
the other thing he did was Four Rooms, which was kind of a goof.
Yeah.
And then he wrote True Romance, right? So
that was earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like before Pulp Fiction.
Don't forget about you know, Grindhouse, you know, and shit like that. So but
how could I not?
One thing with this movie
I did.
I know it's painful. Yeah, I know. Well, most of this movie is kind of after Jackie Brown. I have a very difficult time with. But the thing is that for me, because it's just so cartoony and it's just over the top, and it's like running around with samurai swords, and you know, it's just cartoons, you know.
Right. It
was literal cartoons in Kill Bill.
Well, like it's just like a pastiche of movie references, which is, it's really tough for like people like us who I love the 70s. We love the 70s. You know, we love movies. You know, I was a kid when Pulp Fiction came out. I'm sure QT has like a big influence and inspiration for me to like love those kind of movies, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, by the time Kill Bill rolled around, it was like just the pure references one after another. That's all it felt like to me. And like I might have missed it. I was probably too young to pick up on all the references in you know, Pulp Fiction or Jackie Brown, but they got too much for me in Kill Bill. But I think that Jackie Brown's like the perfect balance of pastiche and like just an actual movie. Like it opens with pastiche. You know, there are references threaded throughout. You know, I won't name any specifically right now, but like it doesn't rely purely on that. Or, you know, there's references to the 70s, but doesn't take place in the 70s. It's not like it's, you know. So anyway, I think it's.
Go ahead, Evan.
I was just going to say, and tag in right after this, I was just going to say, I think the difference with this movie versus the others in his filmography is, you know, everyone talks about homage and the homages he makes and the references or whatnot. I don't see this movie as much of an homage as the other movies. I see it more as a tribute, you know, and that kind of goes back as what I was saying. I think there is a fine line between homage and tribute, because that feeling you get when you see Pam Grier and Robert Forster, et cetera, on the screen, it's just a wonderful tribute to them as people and as actors. And because it's not just referencing the characters they played before, you know, it's like I'm paying tribute to this person, and that's what makes it, I think, more special, and it has a deeper emotional connection. At least I do.
And it has a real warmth. Like we were saying, it's his most generous film. We were talking earlier about this. Like, he's very giving and very open to, I wouldn't call it collaboration, but he did get a great talented group of people together, and they brought a lot to it. But we were talking about this just now. Marcus, you mentioning like pastiche and homage and all that. I think it's homage, by the way. Just kidding. Sorry. Somebody said homage on one of these other podcasts.
I
was
vote no.
Yeah, exactly. Click. So all kidding aside, so I'm saying, we're talking about that, and I think he's doing something very sophisticated, and it's almost like this, like more evolved Quentin Tarantino, frankly, in Jackie Brown, in that it's imagining a world where it's not just a one-for-one tribute to the 70s and the films he loved and all that stuff. No, and what I mean by that is like, it's not set in the 70s, and it's not a tribute to the 70s because you're in the 90s, like in that mall, for instance, it's the 90s in the film itself, but the color tones, the color grading is super 70s. The filmmaking itself, like it's a lot of earth tones, and it's like a more muted color tone. For instance, compositions. He goes to a lot of places that might as well have been in the 70s. Like his office probably looks identical to the way it did 20 years before, right? Mm-hmm. And they go to this bar that hasn't changed since 1971, that kind of thing. So it's kind of, what I'm saying is it's sort of this like really nice kind of almost trippy hybrid where it's not this, like I said, this brute one-for-one tribute, like 70s car, 70s song, it's not, it's more just kind of, it's a meshing in this really nice way. And, we're saying that like she's playing a real person and everything like that. And of course, she's more muted than like Foxy Brown or whatever back in the 70s. But there are moments when she is like holding a gun to a motherfucker's dick, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Like that does happen. Mm-hmm. And yes, it's in a more realistic context, but it's still, it's almost as if, and this is a total BS thing I'm making up here, as if like an art house director in 1975 was inspired by by Foxy Brown or something, but he made this downbeat, like this French art house dickhead, filmmaker made this like Bresson or something, made this really downbeat grindhouse film. So meaning the setting and the plot is grindhouse, but he slowed everything down, lowered the temperature because, and this is the last thing I'll say as an example, it's the components more or less of a movie like Coffee or Foxy Brown, but it plays in the world of this naturalism that's much more like The Long Goodbye, like the early parts of The Long Goodbye when he's feeding his cat for a long time. Mm-hmm. And so that never happened in the 70s. There was never a film with a plot and characters that live in the underworld, mm-hmm. in a ghetto urban setting, and right. Like people are getting shot to death, but it's played out where like it's California Split, and they're like having breakfast, staying up all night with two cocktail waitresses. You know what I'm saying? It's he made this thing happen that never happened. And it's brilliant because it is two 70s elements that he and we all dearly love, and it works beautifully. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, totally. And I feel that the characters have a little bit of, fantasy into that too. It's like they were in their youth in the 70s. Jackie and Max were like, they were in their 20s in the 70s, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. And she listens to records. He's reading like a spy novel, about like a middle-aged man who I noticed it. I looked it up. It was like the Berlin Game. It's about a middle-aged guy who becomes a spy or something. So
cool.
The real dad novel.
Right, but he's like, it's like about he's sort of, what his mental space is like imagining a middle-aged guy doing something kind of, movie-esque, and like Pam or Jackie Brown at the end, she's actually, there's a music playing and she's singing along with the theme song. Like she's singing the theme song at the end of the movie, that character. It's almost like she's living out a fantasy of the 70s movies in a way. You know what I'm saying? But it's like a more real life version of it. Anyway,
he likes remember guys,
there's so much about age in this movie, and aging and
generation. Yeah. But he likes movies. Remember, he goes to see it, and there's a cute little wink where the Jackie Brown last song in the credits is playing as he's walking out of the mall movie.
Yeah. So, right.
Yeah. One thing, but he likes movies.
Yeah. One thing on that, Marcus, too, it's like, for me, it's another reason I love it too, is the fact that, this is a story about two middle-aged people, ostensibly, the two main characters, right? It's about it's this middle-aged romance, but it's also like we're seeing this massive follow-up. To go back to the Magnolia thing, it's a massive follow-up film, but it's really about a middle-aged black woman who makes $16,000 a year. She's a flight attendant, and this is obviously going back a little bit to the source material too. But just like the stakes of that, and wanting to get yours, and of course, Max Cherry, who is just this disenchanted bail bondsman, blue collar guy. Like I love that. That's so down to earth, And
dude, I know. Look, I don't know why. I don't know why, but his world is so well etched in these simple ways. Like, I don't know why, guys. I can't explain it. But there's a golf ball in his glove compartment when he looks for his gun.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is that his lucky golf ball or like whatever it is? It's a golf ball. And just his whole decor. And I gotta maybe push back a little bit because I think that he is even older. Like he didn't really hit 1970 really hard because he was already older. You know what I mean? Because he was only 15
years 10 years older or something.
Yeah, so like he's actually there's almost characters in 60s movies that are like him. He never freaked out, and he's just a guy. He's not like a conservative or anything like that. But we all walk by and see and have experienced these people. Some guys like this are some of our dads out there. You know what I mean? Not mine, but like he's just a regular American person, and that's why I really felt close to him because he just it's you again. No one ever covers a guy who has a middling career and he's kind of like almost near retirement, and he's not a remarkable person in any obvious ways, but he is remarkable because he did help Jackie out. And as someone pointed out once, they felt that maybe he had some idealism when he was young because he really did just want to help people in this capacity as a bail bondsman. You know what I mean? And he really, in a way, is just like a little a guardian angel, at least we're seeing with Jackie. Yes, he's attracted to her, but he also like cares about her and believes in her and wants to help her because he can see that she's a good person, So he's just like this nice, unassuming man who is just eked out this little life of his. Yeah. And you just don't see that. When the only times you see that are in like an occasionally pretty good film, like About Schmidt, kind of. He's more well off, but somewhat like that. Just you'd rarely see what I'm saying is you only really see observations of kind of an everyman like that in almost more downbeat, almost more pretentious kinds of art house films. Yeah. But it's great to see in a fun movie. Like Jackie Brown is ultimately fun. And you're seeing this guy who's just living his life and doing the best he can day to day, and her, both of them. And that is really trippy because you only see that kind of depiction in like, woman on the verge of a nervous breakdown or whatever. Sorry, woman under the influence.
Oh yeah, woman on the verge of a nervous breakdown. That's whoops.
Well, no, but you know what I'm saying,
Yeah, I was just gonna say like
it's a pop film, but it's with like middle-aged people who are just living day by day. What the fuck, man? That's so great.
Saying. Hey, best film in the 90s. And also just like in terms of just to put a firm point on that, I mean that fucking scene where he goes and how adorable is it when he goes to buy the goddamn, Delphonics cassette tape? I mean, that is just
incredible. Beautiful
way just to very subtly start to show the audience how he's feeling. And it's amazing. It's an amazing moment.
We're not worthy.
I know, and it's not cartoon.
And him
corny
singing
bullshit.
along with it too is just like
Well, he only plays it on the cassette. Like he just probably rewinds it to the beginning of the tape.
In the car. Yeah.
We only see him listening to that one song. Yeah, and it's like
sort of mouthing it to himself while he's singing is like so great.
Yeah. Oh, it's so great, and it's so simple, and that's just such simple filmmaking. Like him, and then you just see the shot of rows of shitty cassettes, which is so 90s, plastic cassettes. Anyway.
And like you said about Everyman, just to like get off on Robert Forster for a second, he just is the ultimate every man guy, like regular old blue collar dude, like in every. Yeah. It was great to see him.
But a good person, you know?
No, totally.
Like not a MAGA guy or anything, just a guy.
Yeah. Totally. And one thing I was going to say too about Robert Forster, it's like, even in the films in his heyday, or in more like when I think back to a movie like Vigilante, which I like quite a bit actually, the Bill Lustig revenge film. I mean, that's a sleazy kind of exploitation movie. But you see him in that movie, and it's interesting to what Quentin was probably envisioning with casting Robert Forster is, even though that movie is just kind of, a very low budget kind of, Death Wish kind of thing. But there's moments in that movie where, because he goes to prison in that film, his wife is, leaves him, and then he comes out of prison, kind of wrongfully accused for doing what he's doing, and he comes back, and there's this amazing moment where he's just unpacking, things and unpacking his house, and he's just holding a piece of Tupperware, and he's like,
look at this. 10 years of my fucking life. What is it? Plastic shit.
And it's just this amazing moment that he adds
gotta rewatch
so
that.
much to this just kind of, just kind of sleazy exploitation film. But that's what he probably responded to in casting him.
I'm sure, because he has a great eye, like we were saying, because the thing is, and Quentin, pats himself on the back about this, but right on, is he has no prejudice, or he didn't at least with this film, no prejudice in casting. It's not a stunt. It won't help of course it didn't help the box office $1 to have Robert Forster, but also he wasn't like playing the game like, well, you get, DiCaprio's moving up and like, well, I'll rewrite it.
Not every filmmaker that has the ability to do that either.
No.
Well, he got it put together. He got the Magnolia blank check.
Yeah,
look what he did with it. That's fucking hot, dude.
I
to
know.
do that with your Magnolia blank check,
Can I do? Can I just go back to one thing you were saying earlier, as you were talking about the look of the movie, and just to kind of talk just quickly technically about the movie. I also think it's very interesting in Quentin's, to do, for his follow up to the big Pulp Fiction, right? He actually changes DPs for this movie, which I thought was really interesting because he the guy who shot Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, he goes to Guillermo Navarro, this other DP who brings a totally.
You've mentioned him before. I
don't know. Have I?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know.
I met him once years ago. He's a very nice person.
Oh,
maybe I brought him up before.
Yeah,
I think so.
But he's awesome because he brings this really timeless. I keep going back to this movie feeling timeless because I have a hard time watching Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction today. Where this movie, I can go back and it feels timeless. It feels naturalistic. The pastiche isn't there. The cartoon
less dated for you.
No corny samurai Bruce Willis with samurai swords and quoting Bibles and shit like that. This is like timeless, naturalistic look that's so classy. And the fact that, because you look at Pulp Fiction, it's got the burnt out, washed out Technicolor reference, thing going for it.
Exactly. That's what I mean. This movie has like warm browns and deep reds and just like earth toniness, but also actually, if I can, the pace. I did we bring up the pace earlier in some regard?
No.
But I was saying like it's paced like an Altman thing, but it's in a setting of exploitation. But like the pace, was another kudo for him. I just want to say that, and you guys go off. But like the pacing is not in the same speed as the '90s. At all, like especially like pacing's bad still, but things were getting really revved up in an awful way, like Natural Born Killers, but like and more
sports,
yeah. But anyway, I'm just saying the pacing was so alien, like I've heard him say like young people are like it was kind of pacing was kind of slow. Yes, that's our buddy who worked. Our editor buddy who worked on Psycho 1998, and see there she's saying that, and those morons who made Psycho reboot a year later are like, kind of pick up the pace, this Hitchcock stuff. What? And Quentin was just like, no, fuck you, this is cinema.
Well, the '90s were so extreme and like radical.
Yeah, exactly. And music video influenced.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I do want to talk about the pace, but just wanted to touch one thing about the look before we moved on from that subject was just that it's shot on film, right? But there's like no grain, which I think Pulp Fiction does too, where it's like you forget that it's on film, but it looks so much better. And when I was watching this time with Jackie Brown, I was picking up that it's such a good argument for using film still because there's no grain, so no problems there, And then it was like it's really tight on people's faces a lot, and like you can see their pores and stuff. It doesn't look bad. Like it's, and I watch like HD TV now, like a television show or something. I'm just really fixated on how bad people's like how bad people's faces look really close up on HD, whatever. And this, it's something about like just the combination of like film makeup that they have perfected how to do film makeup, over the course of like 80 years or whatever, mixed with 35 millimeter film is just this perfect kind of thing. And I just feel like makeup and like HD, video just don't really, or, digital cinema, there's still kind of a disconnect there. And this
there's no magic. There's no magic.
There's no magic, right? This
no
has
X
that, the
factor.
titles have that wow and flutter, like little gate weave and stuff, and like there's just all these,
But again, it's all restraint. He doesn't, like he just does enough. Like he'll use across 110th Street, but like he doesn't. It's not gratuitous in the winking towards the old school. It's just a movie first that touches on, like maybe some. Not even tropes of the 70s in blaxploitation, but just in telling a story that has a lot of black people in it, in bad neighborhoods, and there's like crime and stuff. It's going to wind up bumping into in our consciousness, a 70s film. And that's another thing is the depiction of black people in this film. Is like it's not trying to. Be part of like the solution in depicting this kind of suburban Black American experience, like soul food or something like that. You know what I mean? Which is fine, but just like, but it's also not garbage, and they're not morons, and it's not ugly and grotesque. They're just like people. The way this is just a movie, like she's just a woman. Like a human being. And even Ordell is a human being. Now, Ordell, the characters, I don't know. I just have a note here that I can't stop looking at for some reason, but Ordell is kind of a loser is what I made as a note. And maybe we could start rattling off the cast. So I don't know. You want to start with Ordell?
Yeah.
Indulge me.
Yeah, let's talk about Sam Jackson in this movie, for me, but just off of what you're saying about how he's kind of a loser. I think going to the source material of Jackie Brown, obviously based on a Elmore Leonard novel, so it's right in the pocket of someone who writes, great crime fiction, and comes up with, characters like this. And one thing I think that another reason I love this movie, man, and another reason why I love crime fiction, I have a whole bookshelf behind me, is noir fiction, crime fiction understands how to write a fucking villain, as opposed to most screenwriters. Villains should be dumb and scary. And Ordell is dumb and scary. And that's what makes him a real threat. That's what real villains are in real life, are people that are fucking stupid and scary. But he's a real person. I'm not trying to just like dismiss him, because he's a real person. And there's even times in this movie that you feel bad for him because
you do. It's his money.
Yeah, it's his fucking money. But he also is just like, he's just somebody that, has, I'm not trying to dismiss him in that way. I'm just saying that he's not like a smart person, and when you're depicting a cold as ice villain like this, sometimes that's scarier than just some supreme badass, is what I'm saying, which most films have.
Cartoonish. It's not cartoonish. Well, there's layers to Ordell, and boy, is he the perfect guy to play that character, and maybe we'll play our first clip of the show here. Yeah. But the one moment that really caught me in Sam Jackson's character, his performance, is right at the very end. One of the last times you see him, and one of the last moments of his life, is he's kind of reading the riot act outside of Max's office, and he's telling Max, as they're both seated in the car, like, look, if this happens, if this happens, if this doesn't happen, if that doesn't happen, you're dead. Like, you got it. And it's what struck me was, yes, it's scary, and he's been intimidating and scary when he needs to be throughout the whole film. And it's a very Sam Jackson, button he presses. But he's also, you can tell, kind of freaked out, because he knows he's so serious about telling Forrester, like, are you sure there's nothing up your sleeve here? Because he kind of knows, because he plays tricks on people and he fucks around. He's like, I'm kind of walking into a trap. I've set traps, guys. So this feels like a trap, but I got to roll the dice, because he's like, is my money in that office? You know what I mean? Anyway, I'll let the scene play out. But I'm just saying that it is the hint of not vulnerability, but he's not as cool a cucumber as he is in the rest of the film, even when he's saying cool cucumber stuff to Forrester. So let's check it out.
Listen, I go walking in there, That nigga Winston or anybody else is in there, you the first motherfucker get shot. You understand me?
Yeah.
So good.
That ain't nothing you want to tell me before we get out this car, is there?
No.
Last chance, motherfucker, you sure? Better be, motherfucker.
Yeah. Anyway,
It's so
he's kind of vulnerable because you know what? He doesn't have to showboat to Forrester's character really right then. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't have to do the like his kind of BS, like a cool cucumber, charisma thing, because the stakes are really high, and he doesn't have to do that here. And he was right, and he gets shot right in the fucking chest the second he walks through the doorway. So
Yeah.
Just kidding.
well, that's how this show works. Everyone should have seen all the films we do, by the way.
Of course.
Yeah.
He
Anyway.
looks one of the great. There's such a great moment and is when towards the beginning when he pulls the trick on Beaumont's character and tricks him to get into the trunk.
Chris Tucker,
right? Beaumont, yeah. When he's like putting his gloves on, and he's like taking a moment to pull each glove on. It takes a minute to get them all like on, and then he looks back. He sort of smiles to himself, and that great, Brothers Johnson song is playing. It just sounds like scary music. It's such a great, just that all the pieces really come together at that moment. Just like the design, the gloves are perfect. It looks great. The music's amazing. The performance is amazing. He looks cool as shit, and he's terrifying. It's
the photography's amazing.
That's just like filmmaking, like
101. Well, the whole Beaumont run, and we're not going to show all of it, but like maybe we just have the last little part of it. We can maybe show folks, but like that is, well, God damn it. Quentin said that somebody said that that's his Elvis Mitchell. Yeah, big deal. But like, but still, but I understand making that observation that it's kind of like a little bottle episode within the film, and it's just the Beaumont thing is just pitch perfect, and it's early. Like people say, the first half of the movie just people sitting around and you get to know them, but the Beaumont thing is a thing. There's beginning, middle, and an end, and of course it's consequential and it's part of the developing plot. But it's such a perfect Quentin moment. And everything is done pitch perfectly, like Marcus is saying. Everything's great, and it ends. And we've all individually, I think, really observed the and are trying to get the right words, but how it works when he shoots him in the trunk of the car. And I remember when I first saw it back in the day, I was like, "Wow, that's remarkable. That's unlike Quentin, but it's also again unlike the '90s to have." I wouldn't necessarily call it Brechtian, but it is an uncommon distancing device, or just simply a device where you there's big action, but you get like you're across the goddamn street and on the roof looking at it.
Well, it's like something you'd see like in a
it is Brechtian.
It's something you'd see like in a Jean-Pierre Melville movie or like a Army of Shadows or something, where there's like this really ice cold distance and ice cold objectivity to what you're seeing, and when you're seeing
bird's eye view.
Yeah, when you're seeing it that far away and that far removed, it just makes it that much more fucking cold because it's so impersonal.
Absolutely.
And it's just like, like just execution. Boom. We just met this guy and we're just going to fucking kill you right now. Boom.
And, it's not the first time and it's not the last, or well, it is the last time, but it's not the first time he's made that maneuver. Like, I'll do the trunk thing on Beaumont. You know what I mean? It's just, he just punched the clock. It's another day at work.
It's also not lurid because we don't see the cutaway to his body in the trunk. We don't see his bloody, and we don't see Melanie dead either.
Well, that's we have some of those clips too. It's reoccurring. It's off-screen violence mostly. That's unlike him.
Yeah, we're just super pulled back here, and this is really like I'm sure as most Tarantino fans watching this movie for the first time. This is the first time that he's really showing us any form of cinema violence or however it's going to play out in this movie. And the fact that he establishes it with this is
it's the first act of violence. Yeah.
Pretty stark and cool.
It stopped me in my tracks when I first watched it because I wasn't sure what to make of it when it first came out because I got excited. Everybody had fun with Pulp Fiction, but then I was like, "This is weird, though," and it was kind of confusing me because it was like it's being marketed weird. Like I could tell the marketing was deceptive because I saw the trailer and I went,
bad.
Right, but also it's just like I know this film is not like this trailer or Pulp Fiction, because they're trying to get squeeze any lemon of genre exploitation-y juice out of it, and I could tell even in the trailer it's not right. Anyway, so I'm just saying, but what I'm saying is, when I first saw it, that really, I took notice on that shot. That's anyway. But also, you're right, Marcus. It's off-screen violence, which is how violence is played in this film. And I don't know if you want to thread even maybe just the Bridget Fonda scene in the parking lot, just as another example, because it's easier to see.
Yeah, real quick, if I can just put a bow on. Let me just put a bow on Ordell, if you don't mind. Then let's go to that.
Please.
Just the one thing I want to say is Sam Jackson, I think deserves a ton of credit for this performance. I think it's one of his best in all of his his oeuvre. But yeah,
absolutely.
but and it's every piece of dialogue that he delivers it. I think it's the realistic, grounded version of Jules, from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
because here is him, and he's delivering those lines of dialogue so precisely. Every single line that he delivers in this film is actually, if you really tune into it and just watch him, do one whole watch through just for Sam, everything is completely
like with De Niro in the van, that's on par with what we showed earlier, but maybe just one other thought on Ordell too, because I brought up the whole he's kind of a loser. It's just something I've been playing with in my head that's sort of amusing me, because Bridget Fonda breaks it down to De Niro when they're both alone in the apartment, and I'm realizing, I love always realizing that that's not Ordell's beach house. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because you assume it, he's the man. He's got 5 women, in his stable. You know what I mean? But he doesn't. He's somehow hoodwinked this beach bunny girl, like he calls her, and she's probably on her way out anyway. She's kind of doing the math. It's I'm out of here, and you're getting out of my house. And he lives in this dumpy old craftsman in Compton with this kind of simple girl, farm girl from the Greyhound bus station. Yeah. And so what I'm saying is, he's getting deglamorized as you watch the film.
I think he says he puts them up, but that's his claim, is that he puts those girls up, that they're but I do totally.
That's her beach house. He's always there and never at his place, because it sucks.
Right.
He's living a fantasy.
Right. I thought, he's she says that he's, De Niro says oh, he sure knows a lot about guns, and she's like, oh, he's just repeating something he overheard.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly.
That's great, because he's menacing, and he sounds like a master criminal the way he's talking about the Tech 9 and stuff. It is sort of to Evan's point, a more realistic, grounded version of Jules. It's almost like if you took Jules' someone was behind the scenes going he's just quoting some shit he read in the Bible.
Yeah,
exactly. Absolutely. It's a fascinating bookend comparison piece in Jackson's performance, and one's richer, and more satisfying, and I won't tell you which one.
Yeah, I had a funny little anecdote too, about talking, but then we got to move on because we're 18 minutes here. The thing is that I also love talking about how it's a low stakes crime film. It's not really about millions of dollars and about all this high stakes stuff. It's really just about
no helicopters.
Yeah, no helicopters.
It is sort of QT's wheelhouse though, right? They're always small time. Crooks, right? At least in the early days.
Sure. And I just love that in films in general. But I love that I heard that Quentin had written a scene in the film to explain the $500,000 that, I think it was he had a scene once where De Niro was going to turn to Ordell and be, $500,000 is really not that much money.
Yeah.
And
right.
And then the scene is, Ordell saying, well, it fucking is in the Philippines, or so.
Right. You could have a butler for 10 cents a day. Yeah. In the Philippines.
Right. Which is kind of funny.
Well, you know what? Perfect segue to another beloved character, my man, Lewis. What's his name? De Niro's character.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. De Niro.
That is an underrated performance, because, it's a subtle performance, but it's Robert De Niro, and it's as good as any Robert De Niro.
God, it's so good.
I think the reason it's undervalued is because it does it subtle, and he's such a larger than life star. You know what I mean? I think people go in expecting him
a small character,
larger than life, and then he's a little, but he's actually acting and being I think that's part of the reason why it's people don't sing its praises as often.
Right. Well, one thing I'll say, we were talking about this recently, is one of our favorite movies, Straight Time. That's an old one fucking hour from days gone by. Oh, yeah. And boy, we love that film. But the first thing I was thinking of when I see the De Niro character, I go, that guy walked out of the world of Straight Time and he walked into this film set, because not just the way he looks, but boy, the way he looks. And evidently, by the way, De Niro has a makeup person, like this woman who always dresses him to a T to help him get in character. She did here, like applying the tattoos properly, and does he have an earring or not? How much gray hair does he have? But like, is he not very Straight Time? Like, he's done time and he just got out. And Quentin himself said, like, De Niro, this is an example of De Niro being so brilliant in that he got all the characteristics of what someone who's done about 4 or 5 years in jail, and all the mannerisms that they don't even know that they're doing in the straight world when they get out. You know what I mean? Like, just kind of blankly staring, like, how he holds things, how he handles, carries himself, how he walks. And De Niro just nails it. And he's scary, and he's living the skin of a Straight Time character. That's all I'm really trying to say.
And just the whole, like, the tensions ramping because he's been inside, he's been in jail, and he's disassociating because he's just smoking bowl after bowl after bowl.
Right.
And the whole thing is kind of building within him, and then he can't quite get it together because he doesn't believe in kind of what he's doing, and then like had to have to manage Bridget Fonda's character, and of course that all builds to a head in that amazing scene.
That's the part where he's
so
like,
shocking.
There's the part where he's like Ordell's talking to him, and he's like trying to hang up the phone, and he's like, De Niro keeps spinning the cord around and getting it wrong. He's like, man, I'm trying to talk to you here, man.
Yeah. He's fucking out of it. But one thing, just please indulge me, like with De Niro's incredible performance. I just rewatched this scene, and we have it right here actually. So just look for this when we play this very briefly. De Niro scene in the parking lot is he begs her to stop tasing him. Yeah, and like it's a 2-second micro change in his behavior and his tone. He's just like, come on, just don't do this because you are going to die. I'm going to have another murder on my hands. I might get arrested right now in the parking lot just because this is going to go down if you say one more word. And it does, but he's just kind of like, please don't do this, and it's so brilliant. So let's check that out real quick. Okay. This is De Niro killing it in Jackie Brown.
Is it this aisle or is it the next one over?
That's this one.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
You're positive? Don't seem sure to me.
Hey, don't say anything else, okay? Keep your mouth shut.
Well,
I mean, don't say one fucking word, okay?
Okay, Lewis.
You know what? Because of his performance and the circumstance and the plot, that is the most fucked up murder scene in any Tarantino film.
It is.
You know what I mean? Because okay, violence, that's incredibly horrifically violent. It's surprising. It's in broad daylight. It's in a generic mall parking lot that we've all been in, and that's what really shocked me. I didn't see that coming at all. And his performance is so incredible. It's insanely ice cold, and it's basically he's a real person because of the brilliance of the script and the brilliance of the performance. That even this small character is a real person, and like I was saying, just that little moment where he's like, "Please don't do this, just please." It's like, I'm begging you. It's your last chance. Don't say one word, and then she does, and he's not thinking. That is not obviously a rational person because. Like, he couldn't let it go. She did say one more word. You know what I mean? Like, his head is in such an alien place, a prison, lifer, criminal, Straight Time ass place, because that's very much the Straight Time character that Hoffman has too, right? Mm-hmm. Like his head is not screwed on like most people's, right. and is a perfect exhibit of that. And that's real. That shows you that cartoony violence with like you said, you keep saying it.
Samurai sword.
What is samurai sword?
Bruce Willis.
Someone getting
samurai
killed.
Sword.
I know. Someone getting killed with a samurai sword is just too goofy. And yeah, they're dead. Someone killed this other person, but it's just not even in the same planet as the scene we just watched.
I always feel bad that Max was like kind of responsible because he's like he's just sitting there and he kind of gives himself away in the women's department there, always watching them, and
I love that too.
spotted, you know. And
He's
I'm
like,
what are you
he's like,
doing?
hey,
yeah.
oh, okay, fuck everything, guys. Fuck 1 fucking hour. We got to talk about the van scene. We're not dovetailing into another character. We actually haven't gotten to Jackie Brown yet.
That's okay. That's
But,
okay. We'll
fuck.
get it.
It's just 2 seconds because let's just follow through on this whole narrative because this is a beloved scene for all of us in the van, and it's just to set up slightly. It's just De Niro is offhandedly mentioning like, yeah, I shot that blonde girl, and he's like, what? And then he's like, yeah, and then later he's like, yeah, and the bail bondsman was there in the women's department, and he's like, what? And he's like, I don't know, maybe he's getting his girlfriend some like a bikini, and he's like, holy shit, what is wrong with you? And actually, because these guys live in ice cold land, you know, like fucking Ordell can't handle another second of his buddy slipping, his obvious partner in crime, and he shoots him, and he says all of our favorite line, our favorite line here that can be applied to maybe some people in our own lives. You know, like what happened to you, man? You know, you used to be beautiful.
Was so beautiful.
Was beautiful between shooting him, like the first shot and the second shot, killing the De Niro character. And yeah, I could think of a few people where I would feel like saying that. Maybe not the second part. Maybe not the second part, but the first part. Like, what happened to you, man? Great line reading. There's a lot going on there because like it is kind of grotesquely fascinating about how bad De Niro is doing because you know you're like almost like, you know, duh, what the fuck, dude? Like everything's over, shut it down because Max is here. He wouldn't just be there. Like that's like, you know what that's like? It's like when it's like in Casino when the 3 jackpots ring in a row at the same time.
Yeah.
And you know, Billy, what's his name? That you know, anyway.
Or when the frogs drop in Magnolia.
No, whatever. No, bear with me. It's like De Niro in Casino. Ironically, is can't believe that someone would be so stupid to say like, oh, you didn't see that coming, that 3 jackpots going in a row. It's in the trillions, the probability, you know. So you guys know what I'm saying. Casino.
Totally.
And it's just he's so stunned he has to like kill him almost. And but the line reading's so great. The composition is so great. I'm done. Could go on a lot more on the van scene.
Bottle.
Spray bottle, Tom.
All right.
I'm out, guys.
All right.
Van scene. We watch the van scene, everybody.
Okay, all right, Marcus, you and I, let's start talking about Jackie Brown because we haven't really talked about Pam Grier here, and obviously it's a thing that everyone talks about, you know, first with this, you know, amazing movie, but her performance is just out of control, and like I said, for me at the top of the show, one of the best moments in this movie is just that amazing tender moment with her and Max Cherry at the end going into her singing Alone in the Car. It gets me every fucking time. It's absolutely just a beautiful fucking moment. Yeah. I don't know if anyone has anything on that.
It's a great on-screen kiss. It's a great moment. It's one of the great kisses. It feels very good watching that movie.
Yeah.
Watching the kiss at the end, yeah.
It's so good. I mean, talking about a kiss in a Tarantino film is so crazy.
I know.
But one thing I wanted to bring up, if you guys can indulge me, and this could be a segue into the Jackie Brown thing, is I absolutely adore the scene in the middle of the movie when Jackie Brown invites Max Cherry into her apartment, and it's this beautiful, you know, naturalistic scene of these two.
Morning.
It's the morning, and this is where they're kind of talking about where they're at in life. They're having a real moment that they're sharing. She's putting on a record, and then he's kind of like, whoa, she's playing records, and then he's making coffee for her. Or sorry, she's making coffee for him. But what's really great about that scene is the way it's cut. I think is really, really tremendous. I just love how entering in that scene, it's almost like the editing is like an Ozu movie or something, where it's just like on her, and then it's just these singles going back and forth across the room, and then with these great little insert shots as she's making the coffee and pouring the
coffee, and
it's really tremendously well
getting
cut.
The coffee cup, you know.
Yeah, exactly. All of that's so great, just to bring a subtle little layer of style. And to that just really simple dialogue scene that's written
simple, quiet moment. Yeah,
and it's just it's so great.
It does that sometimes, like little close-up details that happen in the movie, you know, and it's like, but it's not the whole movie. It's not overdone like
no
Aronofsky or something, or like
oh boy,
you know, like, or like what's the other guy, the British guy that makes all the comedy films?
Guy
like lots of
Ritchie. Yeah.
Yeah, well, just there's a lot of people that just overdo the inserts.
You gotta have restraint with the inserts. And I think Quentin does inserts perfectly. My personal favorite insert is the that old kind of handle that you have to pull on a cigarette machine. You know, that translucent plastic thing. Like he does an insert on that. Anyway,
but anyway, it's just a really great moment of both their performances. Of just just kind of establishing, you know, where they're at in life, you know, and it's such a real ass moment. And we should.
Well, I think we have, but I mean, compounding all of what you're saying is that these people both aren't like 28 years old. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so there's this other just rarefied air that's happening where he's talking about, I got plugs like 5 years ago, and she's like, my ass is pretty big, you know? And it's just like, who makes a movie like that? You know?
Tarantino was younger too. He was like under 4. Do you think he was under 40 when he made this?
30 maybe? 30. Yeah. Or 31.
It's so, I mean, it's so mature to like make a movie about maturity, you know? And
I know.
Not only did he it's not just something that he just cast these people because he, you know, and didn't think about it. There's age is a huge like subtext in the movie. There's that sort of like revealing kind of at Beaumont's apartment. There's the Tony Curtis interview playing in the background, and I didn't know what it was, but I remember I looked it up a few years ago when we watched it, and it's like Tony Curtis saying that, you know, he would never date a woman his own age, you know. He's like in his like 70s or something.
He's wearing a horrible toupee.
And it's just, and it's amazing that he put that in there, you know, just for us to kind of ruminate on later about like how this movie is about aging.
Good point.
Loving when you're older, and you know, and
it's also about being incredibly stoned and leaving the TV on and watching anything, which is Beaumont's steez. You know?
Watching Tony Curtis,
but
I know, I love it. Oh, this fucking movie is awesome. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah.
But let's get back to the scene, like you said, and we do have a moment of it if we want to just look at it, you know, as we're talking, maybe even. You know.
We should talk about Pam too, and just in general, you know.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, let's get into Pam. I mean,
He's my ass. Otherwise, that money's just gonna sit over there in Cabo. Want some sugar?
No, thanks. There's got to be other ways of getting it out.
Maybe, but I'm the only one he's ever used. I mean, he can't use his other people. They're crooks. I mean, he might try to bring the money in himself, but he ain't.
They also have good chemistry, the two of them.
Good chemistry.
So either he recruits another Cabo stewardess, or he continues to trust me, and I made him feel like he still can.
Are you gonna offer to set him up?
Yeah, if I get off. Otherwise, fuck him.
Fuck him. I love the way she says that. Fuck him. Well, the thing, she's so surprising because, you know, she's gotten more complex as the decades have rolled on in her life, and there's this. There's layers to her. I think that happens to every person who's getting older, is that there's just more layers, which just sort of stands to reason, unless you're a complete idiot, you know, like you're going to get more complex. And so what I mean is she's got in that film, vulnerability, conniving, vulnerability, strength, confusion, panic,
opportunity to have more range as an actor, you know.
Right,
I think that she was always like a beauty, you know. Sometimes she'd be silent in a movie, like in Something Wicked This Way Comes, or like you know, and in the 70s she was like really
like Mama,
like
White Mama,
and strong woman, you know, bad mamma jamma kind of thing, but
not a lot of range.
This let her have like a lot of range as an actor, which is like, and she kills it.
And I got to keep an eye on her because, well, she's also doing a few things as this character, is that, you know, she's faking out the cops, for instance.
That's what I was going to say. She can stand up to the cops.
So she's and actually it's funny, a very revealing thing she says right at the very end to Forrester is, you know, she comes in after everything's done and Ordell's dead and everything, and she's just sort of following up with him, and she goes, hey, I didn't use you. You know what I mean? And he's like, I didn't think you did. You know, but like she did have to circle back and make that clear because she was playing everybody in that, except I guess Max, you know, and she was, because maybe in the very beginning she was playing Max, but I think even just at that coffee table morning, she probably turned and went like, I actually like this person, because she was strategizing, and I think she was factoring in Max, you know, because she's thinking, you know what it is, when you make such little money and you're getting older, it's like, you know, you have to think like a squirrel, man, or something. You have to figure this shit out. So and then she gets in trouble, and then she really has to figure this out. So she had to connive. She's conniving. You know what? She's a better conniver and a better schemer than Ordell ever was. And it's proven by her winning, you know, but like they're both scheming because guess what? They're poor black people, you know what I mean, in America. And they have to have a big part of their brain be playing the thing, playing the odds, playing these people against these other people. And she does that so well that she's also acting inside the movie as the character with the cops, especially, you know, and Ordell. She's playing them. Brilliant.
Right. At the end, does she sort of like give up on her original plan? 'Cause she's like practicing with the gun, right, by herself in that room. And then at the end, there's this kind of shock surprise that like the cops come out and kill Ordell.
Right.
I interpreted that as that she gave up on that plan, or that she was going to do it, and she called, you know, the cops to come. You know,
I'm leaning towards something like that too. Yeah.
She was going to take it on herself, like the movie, but then she kind of like
2-minute warning, guys.
2-minute warning. I just forgot that we did have one more clip that we wanted to show about when she exits jail.
Just play it. Just play it.
Yeah,
just play it. It's self-explanatory. We can talk over it. I pulled this because he looks great. And basically, this is pure cinema. You know what I mean? We've been introduced to Jackie when this scene happens. Like, we've seen her right from the credits. But this is the first time Max sees her, and it's such a big, pure movie moment. This is what movies are, and whatever dumbasses think movies are supposed to be, this is filmmaking right here. This is the movies. You know what I mean? It's just perfect.
That's
you know,
so great.
In the way, and her dramatic way that she enters his life.
It's funny listening to what Quentin said about that scene, where he said that certain audiences felt like we're in Max's head, and he's like, "No, we're not in fucking Max's head. I put the song in there. I'm just trying to make her look fucking badass."
I think it's bullshit. I think he's doing something to deflect from. He's not allowing himself to make a very romantic moment and have that be the inner monologue with that beautiful soul love song.
Because it is
romantic.
He's
kind of like. He's getting like, he's hedging his bets. He's like, I don't want to like go out there and say that I did this big, beautiful romantic moment, because that's what it is. And I'm sorry, I'm not buying it what he's saying, because he's saying he's saying that music. Because if he was saying that soul music's playing to just be like, look at the big bad sister come, you know, that's not it. It's a romantic song. I'm done.
Gotta say, the music's so amazing in this movie, and the fact that
Vampire's Lesbos
songs,
and Vampire's Lesbos.
The costumes,
Lesbos, yes.
The costume design is.
Why
really
is Ordell listening
good.
to Vampire's Lesbos?
Okay,
I'm done.
Wow, we needed more than an hour for that one.
We did.
Fuck. What happened?
Yeah. I don't know. It evaporated. We spent a lot of time,
and we didn't even play a lot of clips.
I know. It's okay. We got it. That's 1 fucking hour.
I had fun.
Jackie Brown. Everybody, I fucking love the movie. You know where I stand on it. So
watch it. It's right on HBO right now. HBO Max, by the way. Watch it now. If it's been a while, watch the fuck out of it. It's great. I love it.
Go have some barbecue at Sam's Hofbrau at good morning.
A very real place that I've been to.
Yeah, it really is.
You guys
great.
been there?
I haven't actually. I've not.
It's where gangs meet.
Oh, okay.
It's real shit.
Real tough shit.
Sam's Hofbrau's gone now, unfortunately, but Hofbrau's still there.
Okay. Yeah, definitely go back and watch this movie, but do not watch any of his other movies. Okay. So
come
let's
on.
talk about
Love Fest. It's a love fest. All right. Well, that happened. So
I'm not a fan.
Now,
I'm not a fan.
All right.
Okay, let's talk about spray bottle. Okay, let's talk about next week, Tom. Tom, next week is a very special episode because you know why?
It's a special episode of 1 fucking hour. my birthday happens to be the next recording of this episode of the show, and for this episode, I didn't give a fuck, and I said, "This is what we're doing." And you guys are being held hostage. You could have not seen this, hate this film, be confused, and all the above. We are doing Birthday Boy's fucking movie, and it's
Mummin.
What's that film?
Mummin.
Okay, sorry.
Christ.
I apologize in advance. I'll keep it brief. It's 1983.
That's an hour.
Right. Next week we're doing. It's my birthday. Jerry Lewis's 1983 film, Cracking Up, aka Smorgasbord, and we're going to have some fun.
Explain to us how it's possible that someone could love this movie.
There's that. Yeah, love is not the word. It's part of my DNA now, and I'll get into that a little bit, and we'll have maybe some fun pyrotechnics because the film is very elasticy and flexible and malleable, and you can kind of like remix it like a DJ. You know, so we'll have maybe a little bit of that sprinkled in, because that's really how I experienced this film. It's a special film for me. I don't recommend it to anyone at all.
So
but we're gonna do it.
I think next week's episode is going to be a personal journey. Like Martin Scorsese has his personal journey, you know, with film series. Right. Next week is the personal journey of Tom Fitzgerald's relationship with Cracking Up, I think, is what it really is.
And again,
right?
I apologize in advance. Now, that means you guys, I guess, get birthday picks, too. So, you know, keep that in mind.
Yeah.
You know, it's
I'll
whatever.
probably do, like, Come and See or something for my birthday film.
Yeah, it's like an indulgence.
Oh, that's cheerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good times.
So,
blow out the candles,
everybody.
bro.
That was
good stuff.
That was a
we
fun
love
one.
this movie. We love Jackie Brown. We hope you do too. Give it a watch. It's rewarding.
It truly is. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to One Fucking Hour, and we will see you again next week for the big birthday show. And now it is your moment of zen. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you later.
I mean, it's very important, that long sequence of the bodybuilding women with the automatic weapons, and that sends the whole thing up so that you know that the violence has become a kind of burlesque. And so you have Ordell. You never know if Ordell is really a hard man or if he's actually a cream puff.
Shut your raggedy ass up and sit the fuck down.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.